That's William Okech, basically just to go through some of what we have in the daily. So, William, karibu sana. October 17th it is for Uhuru and Raila duel. And do you think or do you feel that that is time enough for IEBC to get themselves ready, given that they're already under attack from NASA, with NASA saying that with the current IEBC as it is constituted, they will not accept to go to the poll?
All right. Well, look at that date, I think there had been a crisis meeting at IBC. They deliberated. And of course, as it is, in coming up with that date, they had to confer with the Ministry of Education. I think it is a compromise, being that most of our national examinations are scheduled for that first week of November. Being that a presidential elections is quite dragging, everything almost comes to a standstill. That date one is a compromise. Compromise due to the national examinations which are due. And now IBC, do or die, IBC, they just have to get their act together. They need to talk about ballot paper tendering, whether it's going to be direct. They need to talk about issues of streamlining their results transmission system. And that is why they really also urged the Supreme Court, if that judgment, the full judgment, can come out sooner or later, for them to know which areas they had to make changes.
Second, take a look at page 6 of the paper, because I understand that the IBC commissioners and the management met yesterday. Today, the commissioners will also continue meeting to decide how to proceed with that internal cleanup after that Supreme Court decision. But let's take a look at what was discussed. So among those issues was whether or not to fire some staff. And the targeted staff here are IBC CEO Ezra Chiloba, his deputy Betty Nyabuto, as well as ICT Director James Muhati, all of whom have been mentioned by NASA principals as having been the problem within the IEBC. And of course, this then would mean reorganization of the IEBC Secretariat and not necessarily the Commission. But is there constitutionally enough time for this to be done? And if top dogs like Ezra Chiloba are out of office, can IEBC still conduct an election?
Well, as per the laws and the Constitution, it's given that right now the commissioners, they really cannot be taken anywhere. They cannot be sacked unless, of course, they resign. The easiest option would be for the IEBC commissioners, headed by the chair, to bite the bullet and ask itself, does it want to inspire confidence to the Kenyans at this time, being that the judgment was very much negative in the way they handled the election? The easiest option for them will be for them to carry out such reorganization within the Secretariat. They do not necessarily have to sack some of these officials. You can send them on compulsory leave, say, for example, for a period of 40 days, during which other people who can be thoroughly vetted can come in and act in those positions, people who will inspire confidence. Because right now, being that it's a duel, a contest of two, the opposing parties, the NASA has said there are certain individuals within the Secretariat they do not have confidence in. So the easiest way will be for the IEBC to bite the bullet. Some of those individuals should ordinarily be given compulsory leave, 40 days, and others to step in and take their positions in acting capacity.
All right, and also maybe just looking at the political temperature and statements, because there is the legal side of it, of who can be fired and cannot, but there's a political side of it as well, where NASA have said, we are not going to the polls. So there's a bit of a dilemma right there, because there is the political willpower of NASA saying that we are not comfortable with IEBC as it is, but legally, is that a possibility?
Well, Mike, I think essentially you can take this to the bank. We have a constitution, which is the supreme law, and that is what is governing Kenya right now as a republic. It does provide that this rerun is to be held within 60 days. IBC, as it's constituted, the chairperson and the commissioners, the only ground for their quick removal will be if they opted to resign in Mase. But that will also be a crisis. So as it is, it will be very difficult. The only other avenue that they have is for the Secretariat to be reconstituted The commissioners may remain in office as it is, because constitutionally that is the body charged with the responsibility to conduct elections. Outside of that one, even if we say that they will leave office, there's still the other dilemma. How are the appointees recruited? It's a long-drawn process from interviews, shortlisting. It may go out of the 60-day window period, which we have.
All right. Let's take a look at, still on page 6 of the paper, New York Times retracts opinion on Kenya poll. So the New York Times has found itself in a bit of an issue there of its dismissal of NASA candidate Raila Odinga's polls over irregularity claims. So it has owned up and apologized for that, even as other papers like the Financial Times join it in hitting out at international observers who approved this election, the August 8th election, as free, fair and credible. And we've seen a lot being said about this and the role of observers, should they be taking part in this next election. Where does the role of an observer begin, and what more do we expect of them as Kenyans in this next poll?
Well, in an electoral cycle, observer missions, traditionally they've been independent agencies who come in to lend their professional expertise to check essentially how the systems operate. And they normally focus on the pre-election period, during the election and the post-election period. And as it is, observers normally have varied views as to the conduct of an election. They are more or less in the same situation where you see opinion pollsters found themselves in. In the US, many pollsters had predicted a Clinton win, but that did not happen, and they got the bashing. And also the similar thing with these observers, they came, they did the observations, they compiled their reports, and they gave a unanimous verdict that the process as it is was fair. So I think where they went wrong, they did not look into the nitty-gritties of an Kenyan electoral process, because this step leads to that step and subsequently an outcome. That is where they went wrong. So I think it is good that they are coming out and to realize that indeed the observation and the reports which they gave were kind of hurried. Right. So it's a very positive sign.
And I guess, to use the words of the Chief Justice Maraga, he said that elections are a process, not an event. They probably concentrated on the event and forgot the process, and maybe that's where they went wrong.
And I remember many Kenyans saying, we don't need somebody to observe the way we vote. We've always voted peacefully.
Actually, we had history. Yeah, we had some of the civil society group coming out yesterday to say that they came and observed whether Kenyans can queue. And Kenyans do know how to queue, but apart from that was something totally different. Looking at also an interesting story here on page 3. But before that, there's also on the front page